Right now I'm on my way over to my grandmother's house. We're going to see a first-hand account of what it was like for the adult in the picture there, see how things went from her point of view. How old were you when you moved to America?
I was 21 years old when I came here in 1955.
Now, did you come with somebody or were you by yourself?
No, mi esposo vino 3 meses
No,
antes.
my husband came 3 months before we arrived. I came with our two daughters, Diana and Laura, who were 4 and 2 years old.
Now, was someone here before to set up a sort of place where you...
Sí.
Yes, my husband's sisters were here.
And what was your first job when you got
¿Qué
to
era,
America?
qué era tu primer trabajo?
2 años después que llegué.
Yes, 2 years after arriving, we moved to New York. My first job in New York was at a factory that manufactured brassieres.
And what mode of transportation did you use to get to America?
¿Cómo llegaste a los Estados Unidos?
Avión.
Airplane.
Are there any other interesting things that happened to you that you'd like to share?
Parte del viaje a Nueva York.
El viaje hasta Nueva York fue muy interesante. Yo no conocía a nadie.
The trip to New York was very challenging. I didn't know anyone in New York, and at this point I had 3 children because my son Joe had been born while we were in Miami.
Y nos mudamos para Nueva York y no fue muy
This was not
bueno.
necessarily a very good time in our lives. We didn't know anyone, we worked very, very hard, and, well, it wasn't fun, but we did survive.
Sobrevivimos.
When you came to America, did you think you were going to go back?
For vacations, perhaps, but never to live permanently in Cuba again.
Have you been back to Cuba since you came?
Regresaste a Cuba.
In 1957, I returned for 2 months. After that, I never returned to Cuba.
Esa es la última vez que fuiste.
Sí.
Could you tell us about that picture in the background there?
No, esa fotografía es afuera de mi pueblo, en una finca. Mi pueblo era un pueblo pequeño.
Yes, this photograph is of a small farm just outside my hometown of Bahia Honda in Pinar del Rio province in Cuba. I like this photograph very much because it really shows exactly how campesinos lived in that era.
Retrato porque te dice cómo vivían los campesinos en Cuba.
When did you come to America?
I arrived here in 1955 with my mom and my sister.
Con mi hermana y con mi mamá. Llegamos en un avión. Nos fuimos para Cuba.
We returned to Cuba in 1957.
57. Estuvimos allá, pero el presidente no estaba.
While we were there, the president was removed and Castro took power.
Y entonces tuvimos que venir para acá.
Castro's takeover caused us to have to return to the United States, which we did on November 7, 1959, which happened to be my birthday.
So what was it like when Castro was coming to power?
Las primeras semanas, cuando Castro estaba en poder,
Shortly after Castro seized power, he imposed a nationwide curfew, and in Havana, anyone found outside after 9 p.m. was liable to be shot.
Lo mataban.
People were very frightened. In fact, my sister and I would sleep under my grandmother's bed.
De mi abuela, en un colchón muy chiquitico, yo y mi hermana, porque teníamos mucho miedo que nos mataran. Y fuimos a Miami.
We arrived in Miami. We were there for a short time, but then we had to go to New York because that's where my father was.
Nueva York, porque mi papá estaba en Nueva York.
When we arrived, it was a very small space. My father only had one room, and the 4 of us had to stay there. It was a tough time for my sister and I because when we would go to school, the other kids would laugh at us and push us because we didn't speak English. We were just learning, but still we were very small and it was a very trying experience for us. It really was horrible for the first 2 or 3 years, but then things calmed down as we became adapted to our new country. Things got better as we were able to communicate. We were adjusting to our new lives here, and things calmed down. Frankly, I'm very glad that we came.
What was it like when you came here, coming to school and just learning how to...
Living here was very strange in the beginning. When we got here, of course, we were in Miami, but once we got to New York, it was quite a shock because we didn't have winter coats. Of course, being from warm climates, we didn't have any experience wearing winter clothing, so that was a bit of a shock for us.
Así que nada más que teníamos suéter porque en Cuba no hay.
All we had were sweaters. Cuba is very similar to life in Southwest Florida. We really didn't need winter coats. Despite all that, I'm happy to be here.
What recipe are you going to have?
I don't know, probably some plantains because they're really good.
Yeah, plantains.
So, where were you born?
I was born in Port Chester, New York.
And how long after your family moved here were you born?
Approximately 5 years, I
And
believe.
did you grow up speaking primarily English or Spanish?
Well, in our household, when I was little, my mother hadn't completely mastered English yet. So, as a child, I remember mostly speaking Spanish in the household and then English outside in the world.
Were you treated any differently because of your parents being immigrants?
Well, yeah, I mean, as an immigrant family, we pretty much were different. And that had to do with just fitting into the culture around us. We lived in a few different places, one of them being Washington, D.C., which was more of a kind of a smaller southern city area. It's certainly much more cosmopolitan now, but at the time it was a little bit lower key, and because of that, there was a great awareness of people who were different in any way, shape, or form. Not necessarily bad or good, just different.
Now, did you feel out of place when you were growing up?
I felt out of place at times, but for the most part, and particularly once I was on my own, I really became what I consider a fully functioning member of American society, and now I consider myself all American. I love this country and everything it stands for, and I'm proud to serve.